Hi, this is Ricky Tarter from Mame Games. I'm just going to give you a very quick introduction to Profiteers, which is our game that we're coming out with this year at Essen. This is set in the middle of the 19th century, and basically you're a British industrialist who is profiting from the American Civil War. Your goal is to make as much money as you can, and you don't care which side wins. So, let me just run through the mechanics of the game from a very high level, just to give you a flavour of what it's about. Like all our games, it's relatively short, between 30 and 45 minutes. It's highly interactive. What everyone else does is enormously important to what you do. And it's relatively simple, but with a bunch of choices. So the entire sort of process of the game is that you're going to be making money by using your factories to produce weapons that you sell to either side of the conflict, and you're going to get paid in that side's bonds. So, for instance, if you produce arms and you send them to the Union, they will pay you 1 bond for every shipment of arms you send them, and you're going to be collecting these bonds, and you'll be selling to both sides, but you're going to be collecting these bonds. And at the end of the game, depending on the results of the war, your bonds are going to be worth different amounts of money. Eventually, if one side wins, each of your bonds of that side are going to be worth 3, and each of the bonds of the losing side are going to be worth 0. So that's the core of the game. You're going to be producing weapons, selling them to either side for their bonds, and then using those weapons to influence the course of the battles. And the game will end when one side, Union or Confederacy, reaches victory or the war ends in a stalemate. So, let's get down to a very quick overview. So thank you very much, Bean, for being the camera lady. Let's get down to a very quick overview of the components of the game and what happens in a turn so you can understand the process. Every turn, there are 2 phases every player will take. Firstly is the commerce phase, when I will choose to produce with my factories, and this will keep track of my factories, British factories, Confederate or Union-based. I will choose to produce armaments for either side and ship them to either side. British factory can choose where to send their armaments. Obviously, a factory based in the Confederacy can only produce arms for the Confederacy. So, at the beginning of each turn, I will, in the commerce phase, I will sell any bonds I want to raise money at the going market price. This is the going price of the bonds. I will use that money to buy more factories or to buy special contracts that I'll come to in a second. And then I will my factories will produce weapons that I will ship to either side. So I will accumulate troops and I will get paid in bonds. Okay? So that's the commerce side. I sell bonds, produce, buy factories and special cards, and then produce. Following the commerce phase is a battle phase. Now, going around, everybody now has troops cards that they have produced for the different side, and I'm going to choose how many troops to support on which side. I'm just going to put those cards down, and then the next player will put maybe cards on the opposing side, and eventually as it goes around the table, the first battle is being fought and troops are being put on the battle, and then you turn over the troops and add up the troop value when everyone's played, and the side with the largest value wins the battle, provided they have a margin of at least 2. And so obviously you will want to support the side that most benefits you financially, and then the results of the battle are placed out, and then the next round starts again. So that, in a nutshell, is it. The subtlety is there are 3 different outcomes in this game. Either the Union win or the Confederate win. Three victories is what counts, or there's a tie. And the tie occurs if neither side in the battle has an overall majority, and there are certain cards that can help that. In which case the war ends in a stalemate, all bonds are only worth 1, and any British factories you have remaining are much more valuable. So as I go through this game, I'm trying to figure out, which path is most likely to happen? A Union victory, Confederate victory, or a stalemate? And then I'm trying to position myself to be the richest given that outcome. And if the balance though is that the more I push towards one side, the more it costs me. So therefore, I might be subject to free riders around the back. Very quickly, there are a couple of other interesting tactics where in the special cards you can buy, the Undertakers, in effect, you're buying a contract to clear up the battlefields, and every death on the battlefield, every 3 deaths pays you. Likewise, as saloons, you're paying for a prolonged, peaceful and slow conflict, and every troop that doesn't go to battle pays you. So I've now got a bunch of strategies. I can go hell for leather for one side. I can try and engineer a midway, investing more in the British factories, or I can take a position where I'm trying to prolong the war or benefit off everyone else's actions by second-guessing whether there's going to be big bloody conflicts or slow, small conflicts. And that's it. There are a couple of other cards that help push you and allow you to switch sides. But in a nutshell, that's it. 3 different routes. You can switch routes. And I need to be aware or have some sense of how everyone is positioned differently to me in the different victory points. It's Profiteers. Give it a go.